I want you to see, I want you to follow along and see how I use Lightroom to its full potential to get my landscape photographs to the next level. Let's jump right into this here. On the first image that we're going to be working on, let's just work on this one here. This photograph, I recently have taken this photograph in the coast of Oregon, in Bandon, Oregon. Beautiful, beautiful place. Now, the composition here is great. It works fantastic. The lighting was decent. You know, we can see that, you know, I've shot it at a roughly about, you know, pretty low temperature. So, you know, if you bring up the temperature here, you know, this was pretty much what it was looking like in real life. But let's just see what we can do in Lightroom. Now, you're going to see me use Lightroom. You're going to see me use a few features of Lightroom a lot and ignore some. And that's because that's just what it is. And I really want you to focus on what I use, and I want to show you how we can basically, the tools that Lightroom has that really can be impactful on your editing when it comes to landscape photographs. First things first is, usually I always go to the lens correction section. Sometimes I remove chromatic aberration is a must. Always just remove chromatic aberration, especially with scenes like this when, you know, chromatic aberration can be a real problem. When you have really hard, you know, harsh shadows against a really hard line against the sky, always remove chromatic aberration. Now, enabling profiles correction sometimes helps, sometimes it doesn't. And that's because, you know, sometimes you may want to use that distortion, right? Sometimes you don't. Now, what it also does in this case, it usually removes vignetting. Again, sometimes you may want to have the vignetting because you want the eyes to go in the center. Now, in a case like this, I am going to remove it just because I feel like it is actually adding to my composition. And we're going to say okay to that. Now, from here on, the first thing we have to always do in Lightroom is take care of our temperature. Get it to a point where we feel comfortable with the image and basically sets the mood for editing. It sets the mood, it sets the picture, it sets everything so that what direction you're going to be going to, whether it's going to be warm, whether it's going to be cool, and all that. So first things first, let's just balance that white balance. And mind you, this is all going to change as we go. You'll see me change these settings as we go a lot because we're going to do a lot of color work to this. But we're going to just, you know, make it so that it's a little bit warmer than what we started with, something like this. For now, just to get us started here. And another thing I want to do is I want to change that tint a little bit, maybe get it to something like that. Maybe give it a little bit of green tint to it, just like that for now. And now, I want to, like I said, I want to set the mood. What I mean by that is that I want to decide at the beginning of my editing what way we're going to go when it comes to colors. In a case like this, the sun hasn't even come up yet. I mean, the light that is in the sky is very light. It's very soft, and what you see here in the distance, that sea stag that's being lit up, is just the bouncing light. It's not direct sunlight yet. So, and there's been, you know, a lot of mist in the sky. So what we're gonna do, we're trying to add some color. Let's just add our colors, and we're gonna use the color grading section. The color grading section is let's just close everything else here so that we know what we leave basic open and we'll leave color grading open. Now, we're gonna use these color tools in conjunction with each other. So we're gonna go back and forth between them, and there's a reason for that, because once you do something to your photograph as far as color goes, anything you do is going to change what you've done previously. So if I'm adding colors into my highlights, or if I'm doing a little bit of color grading here, that's going to change, and that's going to change everything that we've done before. So we may have to go back and forth and change things. First things first, let's just add some warm tone into the highlights. We're going to go into the color grading section. You're going to come into the highlight section right at the bottom right. And we're going to take that middle point here, and we're going to just drag it over to a nice warm tone. and we're going to try our blending and see how that happens. We're going to change our blending here. Now, when you use the blending, what it does is basically telling you how you want to distribute this color that you're adding. So whatever tone that you're adding into the highlights, how do you want to distribute it? Do you want it to really just focus on the highest, really brightest parts? Or do you want it to be adding also to the foreground as well? In a case like this, I may just go and say, I may want that, you know, a little bit of that color into my foreground as well. Something like that. And now we're going to go back up to the temperature. Okay, back and forth. Like I said, we're going to go back up to the temperature, bring the temperature up. You see, now I'm bringing it really high up. And then between the temperature, the tint, and my highlights, I'm going to keep adjusting them until I get the color that I want. And in a case like this, we're probably going to be somewhere around there. And now another thing I want to do is I want to add some blue tones into my shadows because I lost that here. I'm going to just go here and just pick a nice blue, but we have to be careful how far we go down. We're just going to go something like that. And we're going to change the blending here. Now, we are here, and let's just bring up the vibrance and see what happens. Now, when we bring up the vibrance, you can really start to see. If you bring up that vibrance, you can really, really start to have that color pop. Now, if you bring up the saturation, what happens is that it's even more. So now we're really starting to get somewhere. You see how that light's really just shining onto our background. So if we see what we started with, and now where we are. So saturation and vibrance we're going to bring up for sure in this case. And then we might just play around with the temperature again, because now that we've introduced saturation, now we have to go back and really just start to focus on things and fix things and really see where we're going to go. So vibration, saturation, temperature, and color grading. Back and forth until we get the color we want. And let's just see here. If I use the tint, bring it down, bring the temperature down, and then go back to my highlights. And I'm going to use my blending here. Then bring my temperature down. Just to get that balance right. And maybe vibrance. Starting to get somewhere. Maybe the tint also. Saturation. And there you go. So you can really see what we've done with just the color work, and we set the mood. So if you go back to what we started and where we are now, it's a huge, huge difference. That's already great. To be honest with you, this was one of those images that didn't need much. If you actually go to my website, rammyk.com, you'll see that it's actually sitting in my favorites in my portfolio, and I've done very little in Photoshop. This was actually done all in Lightroom, except that I've added a little bit of that Orton effect in Photoshop, but rest of the work has been done in Lightroom. Now, in a case like this, you can start to really see the clouds. So if you look at this, you can't really see anything. Now you can start to see the clouds. So what I want in a photo like this, just because of the strong light in the background, I may just bring the whites or the highlights down a little bit and bring up my shadows just a bit. Not too much, because what I want that contrast, but I want the shadows to be shadows. But if I bring it all the way up, that's just going to lose. Sure, you're going to get detail in here in the background, but I don't want that. I want the shadows. Remember, shadows are everything, guys. Shadows have to. Without shadows, highlights don't mean anything. Your pictures don't mean anything. Shadows is so very important in landscape photography. So we're just going to bring those up a little bit like that. Now, let's work on the sky. We're going to go into masking, click on masking, and we're going to select sky. And once we do that, we're going to add a new mask over here. There you go. So it automatically selected the sky for us. Now we're just going to uncheck that so that we get rid of that indication and that red tone. Now we start to really play around with the sky. Now what we want to do with the sky, we want to use the dehaze slider. Dehaze slider works always good with sky. I'm going to bring that dehaze slider up a little bit, and you see what it's doing is adding actually blues. That's the one thing with the dehaze slider you have to understand, is that it adds a lot of blues. So to counterbalance that, we might just have to bring up the temperature. And if you bring up the temperature, you can see now all of a sudden it's starting to get where we want to be. Now, obviously, that added too much saturation. So we're going to go back down and we're going to bring back the saturation and the vibrance. You see how we're going back and forth? And then also what we're going to do is we're going to change that tint, because what we want to do is we want to basically start, you know, balancing the foreground and the background. Like that. Bring it down a little bit more. There you go. Temperature. It's looking good. And I think right around there is good. Now, also with the sky, we're going to add a little bit of clarity. Now, when you add that much clarity and dehaze, remember, it's going to really bring up the noise. So what we want to do is, because only the sky is selected, we're going to go into the noise and we're going to bring up the noise reduction as well. Don't worry about it. You can go crazy with the noise reduction in the sky. As long as your sky is selected, you can go nuts. It's not a problem at all, because it doesn't matter if you make those clouds soft. There's one thing that I don't worry about with noise reduction in the sky, and that's good just like that. And we're going to say, okay, now let's see what we've done. This is our image, what we started with, and this is what we have. I mean, that already is a portfolio piece right there. Now, one thing we can do here is we just go back and bring up the vibrance a little bit more. Maybe. And really, that's about it. Okay. Now, I don't want to get into details of you know, going into detail and doing sharpening and all that stuff, because all that stuff, we all know it. That's just for, you know, fine tuning it for later on, depending on, that's going to be, it's going to differ anyways, but depending on if you want to print or if you want to post it on the web. So let's just not worry about that. Let's just get the image to where it needs to be. And to be honest with you, just because of the composition and how great it was, this image already to me is done. And if you actually look at my website, you'll see what I mean. It's actually pretty close to this result right here. Now, I don't want to use a lot of the tools, so what we're going to do is we're going to just go up here and just have a look and see what we've done quickly. And I think we're good. I really think we're good. I don't think we need to do anything to this image after this. Yeah. What do you say?